Kinesthetic. My name is Ulanova, and I'm the Chief Play Officer here at Reservoir, as well as the founder of Small Meat Large, two businesses that are both based here in Austin, Texas. Before we dive deeper into what it is I do, let me tell you a story about what it is I love. Let's call it play. Play, not in the sense of playing ball or playing Yahtzee, but in the sense of tapping into a deeper understanding of ourselves. Understanding how our behaviors and motivations are influenced by a number of things, like creativity, imagination, spirituality, and good old-hearted love. Play is about understanding empathy and how it's a dynamic and rich experience between, say, two people or an entire community. Play is also about understanding the richness that diversity brings among different thinkers and doers, and embracing unique qualities, whether cognitive or physical traits, as another puzzle piece in the grandmaster of what we call human life. Leave it to the Chief Play Officer to sound abstract, right? Well, I'm about to dive into a story of science and research that will make this worthwhile for you. My intention is for the word play to no longer sound irresponsible, but rather for it to become the most responsible way to live life and lead our business. So, are you ready for it? Let's play. To start with the mission. I must admit, I'm a total science nerd. I graduated with my degree in psychology from Fordham University and then received my MBA, intermixing behavioral neuroscience and organizational management. Still completely obsessed with what's behind the scenes of how we think and what we do on a primal level. Whether it is every person, community, business, and quite frankly, across varying types of societies and different belief patterns. Asking questions like, what in the world is motivating the behaviors of people on this planet? And what is driving the behaviors of our leaders? After a decade of working with executives and next-gen leaders to support leadership development and diversity and equity, as well as disability inclusion initiatives through evidence-based learning programs, I finally found my purpose, and it's one simple statement: to redefine strength. And where did this come from? I learned to embrace the word different. Let's take it back to childhood. There have always been leaders and followers in our society, and one can examine this instinctual pattern through the earliest ages of child play. The strongest, most energetic, and resourceful child will often take charge, while the other children will follow. Sound familiar? That's because the pattern continues into our adulthood. But is that sustainable? Is that really what embraces different modes of thinking and doing in a society filled with individuals that think and do different things? As we become older and enter into more complex situations, leadership and strength can be redefined. And it starts through self-realization. But how do we get there? According to Maslow, the highest level in the hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. Many argue that when we factor in socioeconomics, many people don't get to that level of self-actualization because they're stuck in the patterns of survival. Rarely do they get the opportunity to see themselves as leaders when they're in the survival mode of living. But what if we brought self-actualization to a level where everyone can be there? What if we made self-actualization accessible? What would the world look like? It'd look different, and so would our leadership. Furthermore, I'll tell you what, it'd look a lot more like kindergarten. Ever heard of the phrase, why kindergartners make better entrepreneurs than MBAs? The word play has a lot to do with the substance of that phrase. What is life if not a series of activities to solve problems, find opportunities, and work with each other? Do you know what the Marshmallow Challenge is? Because it's a fun one, and it's a simple illustration to why play and exploration count. Here's the story of the Marshmallow Challenge. In the challenge, a group of individuals are given 20 sticks of spaghetti, 1 yard of tape, 1 yard of string, and 1 marshmallow. They have 15 minutes to build the largest freestanding tower with one requirement. The marshmallow must be at the top of the tower. Every year, a pattern repeats. People break into groups, begin debating approaches, settling on a single plan, and then proceed to build the Tower of Marshmallows. Tom Wujek, creator of the Wicked Problem Solving and adjunct professor at Singularity University, has run the same marshmallow experiment hundreds of times and found something interesting. Kindergarteners, well, they perform the challenge better than the MBAs. And the reason is quite simple. MBAs want to plan their way to an optimal outcome and then execute on the plan, dividing it into different roles and pecking orders. In contrast, kindergarteners want to do something much different. Instead of wasting time trying to establish who's in charge or make a plan, they simply experiment over and over until they find a model that works. They are more successful in building the Eiffel Tower of the marshmallow. Okay, so what do we learn here? We don't have to divide into who's in charge. We all get to have a seat at the table. Do you see where I'm going here? We have a problem in our leadership for where decisions get made, and we don't have enough play. And to bring this a level lower, one thing children do that adults tend to forget to do is to fail, and to fail hard. Overcoming adversity, understanding things are not always going to work out, I'd argue is the most important facet of a leader. Understanding that through struggle comes strength. Let me share a story. In 2011, I worked in a clinical setting. I was on track to be a psychotherapist. I worked inpatient and outpatient at Bellevue Hospital in New York City, practicing creative arts therapy with a subset of the population that, let's say, they had it hard in life. One day, my supervisor and I ran an open art studio, and one of our patients had a strong urge to create a drawing or painting that described her understanding of what struggle meant. At first, I was taken aback when my supervisor redirected the patient's needs onto me, stating that, hey, you're the drawer and you can help her. The first things I thought were, okay, let's start simple, color and emotion. It was frightening because I think this was the first time during my placement that I truly felt responsible and cautious with every single word that came out of my mouth. I practiced listening to her and to her story. I gave instructional advice to sketch ideas and feelings with the suggestion to maybe incorporate some color. And lastly, I really started to build a connection with her, and that felt really, really special. It felt as if there was an end goal that we were both working towards. It was a gratifying emotion, but it made me question, how much of all of this is really answering solely her needs, and where, if not, are my emotions not taking the forefront in this relationship? It's difficult because after having heard her story, I began to conceptualize what struggle meant on two levels. The first level was on a broad scale. How is struggle defined? On the second level, it was more personal. What does struggle mean to me? I felt that it was necessary to sketch that concept in my own mind in order to wholly listen and understand when she was describing her childhood experiences and her father's aggressive tendencies. She made a comment that all of us are here because we're very sensitive. I think that is why we are who we are, and which is why we've ended up here. There were almost tears in her eyes, and she was so emotional. Our talk ended on the note that, you know what? Here's what struggle means. To struggle means to be strong. And in the midst of that conversation, it was amazing how much she realized her own strengths. So what if society embraced sensitivity and vulnerability on that level? To struggle is to be strong. Can we then redefine leadership? Moving on. Throughout the years, academics have looked at whether individuals are born leaders or made leaders. The conclusion to this is that there are certain traits that leaders possess, yet different opportunities present different fates to every individual. But at the end of the day, what is the core job of a leader? The core job is to create a vision, communicate that vision, and to develop a strategy that achieves the vision. And that starts with a leader's sense of purpose. One can argue that is self-actualization. Another important job of the leader is to utilize his power towards an ultimate social gain. This is called socialized power motive. This means achieving a vision while also maximizing a positive impact for others working on the same team towards the same goals. And again, where does this start? It starts through empathy. And again, through the understanding that to struggle means to be strong. Empathy, as a definition, can be described in 3 ways. Empathy allows for one to see another individual as an idiosyncratic being through the appreciation of their experience. Empathy also involves exploring or immersing oneself into another's experience. Lastly, through the empathetic understanding of one individual into another's experience, new meanings can arise by means of the resonant grasping of the edges or implicit aspects of a person's experience. What is most important is empathy can be expressed both verbally and non-verbally. Do all leaders in our society have an empathetic understanding of the diverse experience of others? Have they faced adversity to be able to tap into socialized power motive? Is leadership even accessible to individuals that have faced adversity in the world we know today? Are we engaged in both the verbal and nonverbal expressions of empathy? It's not necessarily so, but we do have a collective responsibility to account for it in our leadership dynamics. This is something that I teach in my resiliency course called Staying on Track, where we explore our own arenas of self, including our cognitive biases and perceptual distortions, in order to open up to the differences in others and become better leaders. That leads me to my closing statement to what play is all about. It's about the relationships you build in the context of a person or a team. It's about exploring the arena in which you play in. When I work with clients, the first areas of discovery are based on the openness in communication and whether there is a culture of co-creation. These are crucial methods to build a database of new knowledge, elicit new responses to solve problems, as well as to initiate a transactional and transformative relationship for interdisciplinary knowledge. This is what the science of play means to me. It's the we and not me. The creators of the Seiki model, Ikujiro Nanaka and Hirotaka Takuchi, examine how this process of socialization and co-creation enables tactic knowledge to be revealed, which is then converted into explicit knowledge through externalization. This is then ultimately combined with other forms of knowledge to be internalized, understood, and shared again as tactic knowledge through repeated socialization. The process of co-creation, open dialogue, and the excavation of interdisciplinary knowledge are the solutions to creating the best possible ideas and rewarding innovations. Through play, empathy, and adversity, we can redefine strength together. And it starts with embracing the word different.